students! Welcome back to Science class. In this video, you're going to learn about the communications or the nervous systems in our body. So without further ado, let's begin our lesson. Today, we will talk about an organ that rules all of our body, and that is our brain. As it is the most sensitive organ, our brain is kept inside the body covering called skull. From doing physical activity to solving logical problems, from dealing with emotions and feeling to creativity, the brain is responsible for all. Therefore, it never sleeps. Our brain can be divided into three main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and brainstem. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, which can be further divided into right and left halves called hemisphere. Each cerebral hemisphere has four lobes, namely frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. Each lobe performs different functions. Cerebellum is responsible for the movement and coordination. It gives you the sense of balance and thus prevents you from falling down. Brainstem includes midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. It controls your body involuntary actions like breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure. Brain comes under systems called nervous systems. Structurally, nervous systems is classified into two types: central nervous systems (CNS) and peripheral nervous systems (PNS). The central nervous systems comprise of the brain and spinal cord. The spinal cord is the bridge that connects the brain to peripheral nervous systems. It starts from medulla oblongata and stretches to the lumbar region of the spine of vertebral column. The peripheral nervous systems is a network of nerves spread across our body. Think of peripheral nervous systems as a network of highway that connects the body with central nervous systems. This highway has two-way traffic. Let's see how. When you hold a hot cup of coffee, sensory neurons in your hand transmit signals to the brain through sensory neurons, also called afferent neurons. That the cup is hot, your brain processes that information and send response through motor neurons known as afferent neurons. That you must flip that cup back. PNS consists of a total 43 pairs of nerve, among which 12 originating brain named as cranial nerves and 31 originated from spinal cord, hence called the spinal nerves. Here, you hear the word neuron. Neuron is the basic unit of nervous systems. It is the nerve cell which transmits electrical signals to the brain. A neuron has three parts: dendrites, soma or cell body, and axon. Dendrites serves input device for neuron because it receives input from other nerve cells. Soma or cell body of neuron contains nucleus. Axons serves output device from where it transmits electrical response to other neurons. There are three types of neuron, each with different functions. First, sensory neurons transmit impulses from receptors to the CNS. Second, intermediate neurons, also known as a relay or connector neurons, transmit impulses from sensory neurons to motor neurons. Third, motor neurons transmit impulses from the CNS to effectors. Myelin is an insulating layer that surrounds the axons of neurons. Composed primarily of lipid, myelin helps to prevent action potentials, which are the electrical signals that travel along axons, from decaying due to the electrical current leaking out through the axonal membrane. Myelinated axons thus conduct action potentials more quickly and efficiently than unmyelinated axons, and because of this, many neurons in the nervous systems are myelinated. Myelin does not cover an axon fully. Instead, there is an intermittent gaps in the myelin where the axon is exposed to extracellular space. These gaps are called nodes of Ranvier, and the sections of myelin that are adjacent to the nodes of Ranvier are called internodes. The nodes of Ranvier are rich in sodium channels, which open in response to an action's potential traveling down an action, allowing positive sodium ions to rush in. This influx of Sodium ions rejuvenates the action potential and helps to prevent it from dying out as it proceeds along the axon. Because the nodes around here are not myelinated, however, the action potential slows down at each node and speeds up as it travels along the myelinated internode. This gives the appearance that an action potential is jumping from node to node, which is known as saltatory conduction. Myelin is formed by glial cells, but the particular type of glial cells responsible for myelinating axons is different in the peripheral and central nervous systems. In the peripheral nervous systems, glial cells guard Schwann cells from myelin. Its Schwann cells wraps around one segment of an axon many times to form one internode. In the central nervous systems, oligodendrocytes form myelin. One oligodendrocyte can produce dozens of internodes on multiple axons. Because myelin is white, myelinated axons appear white and make up what is known as the white matter of the brain. We can see the importance of myelin to healthy neural functioning when you look at the disease where myelination is disrupted. In multiple sclerosis, for example, deficiencies in myelin disrupt neuronal communication, resulting in a variety of physical and psychiatric symptoms. A reflex arc. Figure 15.8 shows how a sensory neuron, an intermediate neuron, and a motor neuron work together to bring about a response to a stimulus. A reflex arc is the pathway along which impulses are transmitted from a receptor to an effector without involving conscious regions of the brain. Figure 15.8 shows the structure of the spinal reflex arc, in which the impulse is passed from neuron to neuron inside the spinal cord. Reflex action is an involuntary and nearly instantaneous movement in response to a stimulus. A reflex is made possible by neural pathways called reflex arc, which can act on an impulse before the impulse reaches the brain. Reflex actions are a very useful way of responding to danger signals such as the touch of very hot objects on your skin or the sight of an object flying towards you. Synapses. Most communication between neurons occur at the specialized structures called a synapse. A synapse is an area where two neurons come closer enough to one another when they are able to pass chemical signals from one cell to another. The neurons are not actually connected, but are separated by a microscopically small space called a synaptic cleft. The cleft is less than 40 nanometers wide. By comparison, a human hair is about 75,000 nanometers. The neuron where the signal is initiated is called the presynaptic neuron, while the neuron that receives the signals is called the postsynaptic neuron. In the presynaptic neuron, there are chemical signals called the neurotransmitters that are packaged into small sacs called vesicles. Each vesicle can contain thousands of neurotransmitter molecules. When the presynaptic neuron is excited by an electrical signal called an action potential, this causes the vesicles to fuse with the presynaptic membrane and release their contents to the synaptic cleft. Once they are in the synaptic cleft, neurotransmitters interact with receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. They bind to these receptors and can cause an action to occur in the postsynaptic cell as a result. These actions may involve increasing the likelihood that the postsynaptic cells will become activated and fire an action potential or decreasing it. Eventually, the neurotransmitters molecules must be cleared from the synaptic cleft. Some of them will simply drift away in a process called diffusion. In some cases, the neurotransmitter is taken back up into the presynaptic neuron in a process called reuptake. Once back inside the presynaptic neuron, the neurotransmitter can be recycled and reused. In other cases, enzymes break down the neurotransmitter within the synaptic cleft. Then the component parts of the neurotransmitter can be sent back into the presynaptic neuron to make more neurotransmitter. The role of synapses. First, synapses ensure one-way transmission. Second, synapses allow integrations of impulses. Third, synapses allow the interconnections of nerve pathways. Fourth, synapses are involved in memory and learning. I think that's all about our lesson today. Don't forget to do the SSS online video. Bye!